Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Buff Breakdown. This time I'm doing this on stream because I was quite busy earlier. I didn't even realize there was a new buff. I'm gonna do this on today's stream. I wasn't expecting a buff, but we got one today. Some days into the event now, we got a buff for Voyager, who also got his rate up today, I believe, and that's probably why the buff happened as well. And yeah, it's an MP buff, as you can see, which I'm pretty happy about because I think his, biggest flaw was his low MP damage. He always had like a decent amount of stuff going for him in terms of like his kit overall. It's just that he never really dealt much damage. So I'm very glad to see that they actually buffed his MP instead of like another skill buff or something. So yeah, that's cool. And this is the only buff today, by the way. But let's jump right into it then. So this is his MP, or this used to be his MP rather. But let's go over it. So AoE damage, quick. If the enemy happens to be Sky attribute, you get 150% power mod. Doesn't scale, it's always a flat 150, but again, pretty good. But sadly, Sky attribute, of all the attributes, it's one of the rarer ones, so you're not going to be fighting too many Sky attribute enemies all the time anyway. So if you didn't fight Sky, his MP, especially if you had lower MP levels, did kind of noodle damage, not gonna lie, especially on neutral. But then also, in addition to that, the party gets a nice 20% battery, including himself. Again, this applies for the whole party. Very interesting. And then also, if your allies happen to be living human trait, they also got 10% battery. Now, he himself, sadly, is not living human trait, so he only gets the 20 from that. But your allies could get up to 30% if they had this. And then on the overcharge, we had 20% MP damage on base for 1 turn before damage. Cute little bonus. Ramp up would obviously be good, but, honestly, after the buff, it might be a bit too much, so, yeah. But yeah, honestly, effects-wise, it wasn't a bad MP. A bit niche here and there, but not a bad MP. Now, what did they do? They didn't change much, I'll tell you that much. They changed very little. But, most importantly, it's just a standard damage upgrade, right? That you always get when an damaging MP is buffed. That's the real important part here. And the only other thing that they changed is the amount of battery your living human allies get from 10 to 20%. So now, if you're one of your up to 2 allies on the field happen to be living human, they get 40% battery from this MP alone, which is quite a bit already. Yeah, that's not bad at all. So very, very interesting. So again, it's not a huge change, but honestly, let's first of all start talking about what this means. Now, the living human thing, there's not that many servants that have this trait. This is the full list, as you can see. Again, it's mostly pseudo-servants, of course, because, that's how that goes. And in my opinion, there's only really like 6 of them that have some kind of good synergy with Voyager, them being like Mashu, Rhinus, Waver, Miyu, and Jinako probably. Yeah, those are the main ones you would probably use with Voyager if you're gonna pick any one of them. Others are kind of just there for memes, and because of lore. Oh yeah, Summer Kuro as well, I forgot to mention that, but she probably will have could have some use with Voyager as well, because she still can be used as a support too. So the battery being increased doesn't really do the most things ever. And I guess it's worth mentioning, yeah, true. For Tez, if you do have some kind of interesting multi-core, it could be a thing. But mostly it's for the supports that will benefit from this. But really, it's the damage that is the big thing. Now, I have to mention, someone on Reddit mentioned this as well. It's a cool little thing. Obviously, you can bring double Scotty with Voyager, right? And then if you want to plug a 3rd support, you could bring Rhinus. Now, if you have Rhinus' 2nd append unlocked, not even maxed, just unlocked from the 10%, what happens is that now, after 2 MPs, she gets 80% battery, so coupled with the base append, that's 90%, and then Rhinus is a 10% AoE for herself for batteries. You can actually use Rhinus' MP on 3rd wave now as well, before Voyager's MP, to get even more damage. Depending on your Rhinus' MP level, it could be anywhere from 30 to 50% defense down on all enemies. And it also overcharges his MP post-buff, which, it's not the biggest thing ever, but it also gives him more MP damage as well from his overcharge, basically. So it's a cute little combo that you can do now as well that wasn't really all that viable before this. So if anything, maybe now, like double Ruler Scotty, Rhinus is like his best farming comp damage-wise. Now, it's not going to be as good for, like, Refund, for instance, because, you know, Rhinus doesn't help with the gains compared to, let's say, Triple Scotty, which does help with gains. So it depends. And his looping numbers were never best to begin with, because from what I remember, his looping wasn't that pretty, especially if you want to run Black Rail. For 50%er with triple support, you're good to go. But if you wanted to go from 0 with a Black Rail, it was tough. It was tough. You needed certain classes and definitely like 3 enemies per wave to be able to refund enough. And also, we should have the new looping numbers right here. Yes, we do. Shout out to EbC for adding the numbers as well. So we'll take a little look at these as well right now. As you can see, we have a lot of different comps with post and before buffs. I don't think this has the Rhinus comp here, sadly, that I just talked about, because people don't really think about it too much yet. But we do have the standard double Scotty ruler, triple Scotty, and then double Scotty Oberon comps. And yeah, the numbers are they're certainly better. But I would still say, compared to some other neutral quick loopers, like Karen and Dante's, right? And then you also have, in Berserkers, you have Sen Norikyu, right? They all probably also refund better and also still probably do better damage than he does. But, if anything, I don't think people will be using Voyager mostly for, like, solo farming. In fact, he might actually have some better application in multi-core comps now. Again, much like with the Rhinus thing, and maybe with the Tez as well, because he also has Living Human trait, and he's also used in multi-core. So, yeah, it's an interesting little thing. This might open up some new possibilities and obviously make his existing farming better too. But honestly, having said all that, I still think I kind of like Voyager mostly for challenging content rather than farming. I think that might still be his best use case. Yeah. Because if the enemy is still not Sky, you're still not going to be shredding damage, really. On neutral, at least. For Berserkers, you might do okay. But then again, it's really bad for Refund too, which he already kind of struggles with, you know, depending on the lineup of enemies as well. So, if anything, I think he still should be, you know, mostly utilized against bosses with this. Now, there's also cute opportunities, like, again, one of the Living Human allies is Miyu. And again, for bosses, you could do a funny little thing and bring, like, double Miyu with a Voyager. Then with every MP he does, they get 40% MP, and for every Miyu MP, everyone gets 10% per turn as well. So you could potentially get some really, really crazy trains of just absolute MP spam rolling for like stars, MP per turn, and healing, etc. That could be an interesting thing too that I would like to see someone try out. So, yeah, there's definitely possibilities. On my tier list for extra classes this year, again, this only has half of them because we split extra classes in 2. But this one has foreigners as well. And I did have him at a B+. I think he's definitely worth the A now. I did place him below Jacques. I think his damage potential is probably better than Jacques' now as well. But Jacques also brings other stuff to the table that he doesn't. So I might just keep him next to Jacques for now. Maybe he could be warranted for A+, or maybe it could be like this and Jacques goes down. But for now, I think I'm going to keep them like kinda close to each other for now. He definitely has the edge with the MP buff now. That's for sure. But again, it's not that simple and black and white, you know. But now I don't feel bad putting them like at least on the same tier. Maybe even Voyager should be higher. Gonna have to see what people come up with this and whatnot. But there you go. It's pretty interesting. But I do think it's a deserved buff still, because Voyager never felt really that strong overall. And again, this was his biggest flaw to begin with. His MP doing noodle damage in most scenarios, especially on lower MP levels. So, there you go. I think I'm gonna wrap up this buff breakdown there. But hey, I like the buff. Is it big, like insanely crazy? No, it's like it doesn't change too much FX-wise, but it's certainly, you know, good and needed for Voyager. So there you go, Voyager fans will definitely still be happy with this. So if you enjoyed this episode of Buff Breakdown, do me a solid and press the thumbs up button on this video. I'll also link the AoE looping sheet down in the description for those that want to take a better look at it yourselves, of course. And good luck if you're rolling for him. I do believe his rate up started now as well with this buff. And otherwise, I hope to see you in the next video. Take care and peace out.